Hello and welcome back to Scottish Independence Podcasts. You'll see I've got Lynne Dugan with me as co-host today, and we're about to have a guest, Carol Gilmour, who has got a fascinating story to tell us about her involvement with the charity Tourettes Scotland and the film that's just come out called I Swear. Lynne and I first met Carol when she donated a set of her paintings to a charity art exhibition that we were organising, and here they are. Her nominated charity was Tourette Scotland. We'll welcome Carol into the studio. So it's a lovely way to find new sort of connections. I hadn't heard of Tourette Scotland. Do you want to tell us a bit about the charity? And you're involved in the running of it, aren't you, Carol?
I'm on the committee.
Committee.
How that came about was we needed help ourselves from Tourette Scotland. Tourette Scotland operate across the whole of Scotland, run mainly by volunteers, although we do now have 1.5 employees because the charity is growing. One of the aims of the charity is to raise awareness, and because of the success of raising awareness, and now because of also John's film I Swear, more and more people are learning about Tourette's and then reaching out to the charity. So it is a growing charity. We got in touch with Tourette Scotland originally when my son was presenting with tics, and we had no idea what Tourette's was. Had never come across anybody with it before, and it was quite frightening at the time. And they were an absolute lifeline. So, once we got our heads around him having Tourette's and were able to help him and support him, I realised that as a parent, the position that we were in, we were really floundering. We had nowhere to turn. There's no kind of medical experts or people that can help you in that way. When actually we saw the consultant, they said, "Oh, have you heard about Tourette Scotland?" and pointed us in that direction. And they were just an absolute lifeline at the time. So yeah, from that, I decided, and in common with the other volunteers, I didn't want any other person or parent or anyone with Tourette's to feel how we felt, and wanted to be able to help as a way of giving back as well.
Yeah.
Tourette Scotland, it's a real community. So although it's across the whole of Scotland, there are local support groups across the country. So there's Edinburgh, Glasgow, Fife, Aberdeen, and online support groups are people who can't actually, manage anything in person. So they really try to make it accessible and as inclusive as possible, so that there's something for everybody who reaches out to the charity.
Yeah.
So yeah,
brilliant. And how many people in Scotland actually suffer from Tourette?
so I couldn't tell you the number overall, but there's around 1% of the population have Tourette's or a tic condition.
That's quite a lot, isn't it, for something that it has, until now anyway, has had so little visibility.
Yeah. It can vary in its presentation. So some people are quite extreme, and you'll see and hear the tics, and some people can suppress a lot of the time when they're in public or at school, and their tics will maybe come out more at home, or they'll maybe just have mild tics that don't necessarily bother them too much, maybe a wee noise and a few motor tics, but so it can vary in how it presents and its severity and how much it affects the person that has it.
Yeah.
So the sort of the presentation that the people most think about Tourette's is people who sort of swear involuntarily, but that's only about 10% of people with Tourette's, I believe.
That's right, Lynne. That's right.
So, but I'm just thinking here as you're talking about it, as you're saying, it's like now you've got 1.5 people that are paid to work for Tourette Scotland, but other than that, it's run by volunteers. And so much of the good work that is done in society is done by volunteers, and really the sort of the third sector is propping up our government, and I'm not blaming our government, but because we're on a fixed budget, but all the things that are done by voluntary organisations, if we were our own country with our own currency and could do what we want, you could imagine they'd go, well, actually, we can fund these properly. They can be run properly, not run on a shoestring by people who've given up their own time.
But it is community, isn't it? I mean, this is one of the fabulous things about Scotland, is the strength of our communities. And the fact that people are willing. Well, we're all sitting here doing, we all do things that nobody would think of being paid for, and yet it's, it is quite a good feature of what we do, I think.
Just in case anybody's watching this and wondering, what is it, and how do you get a diagnosis? So to have a diagnosis of Tourette syndrome, there must be multiple motor tics and at least one vocal tic present for a year or more, and these can come and go, so it doesn't have to be present all the time. The motor tics can change, the vocal tic can change, but that's the basic criteria for diagnosis. And what I would say is, if parents are noticing, because usually you notice it in the kind of earlier primary school years, is a kind of watch and wait, and nowadays we've all got our mobile phones, so you can take a wee bit of footage if your child's having a twitch or a movement, and you just wonder, what is that? And take a note, just a mental note of, how often it's happening, if it's problematic, because tics can come and go as well, and there's other tic conditions like chronic motor tic disorders and habits that come and go as well. So the watching and waiting, unless it's severe and it's affecting everyday life, is what to do to start with. Get evidence to present to your GP, and then they can take it further if needed after that.
Right, that's really useful to share with people, actually. And just thinking back, I can think of a few people, relatives who have gone through a phase of having some kind of what looks like a tic, but I think it's been, in their case, just an anxiety thing which they grew out of. So this is a very different thing. If that's the recommendation.
Kind of criteria you've got before you get a diagnosis.
Yeah, that's useful to know.
The person who's actually ticking might not notice. Especially when it might be happening and they're unaware of it. Or in more severe cases, then they will notice. And when it's a problem to the person is really when you need to reach out and seek help.
You just wonder how much is dismissed as bad behaviour when it's children as well, which was a huge, heartbreaking part of the film, which we'll come on to talk about that in a minute. But, and what if somebody wanted to get in touch with Tourette Scotland for more information or to reach out to them? So the best thing to do
is to go onto the website www.tourettescotland.org, and there's a form on there that you fill in, and Kyla, our outreach coordinator, will get back in touch with you and arrange for an outreach, which is a conversation to start with, just to see where you're at, what you need, what kind of support can be offered.
Brilliant. Well, we'll put the link to that in the notes under the podcast, and if anybody wants to do that, then
That's
please
great.
do. And thank you for sending us the link to the debate in Holyrood, which was just this week, wasn't it? Or
it was.
Yeah, which was actually we'll put the link to that as well, because it was really nice to have every party had some contribution to make to that, didn't they? I thought that was really quite good. Did you know that was going to happen? Was that arranged?
That was one of our members, Alan, on behalf of his son Frankie, who had reached out to their local MSP, Sarah Boyack, and she took the debate to Parliament. And as you say, I think one of the wonderful things about it was supported cross-party. That it wasn't political. It was about, let's do what's best for the people in Scotland who are affected by Tourette's, and let's see where the barriers are and try and overcome them. And the debate was had, but there's still work to be done, and the charity will be taking some of that work forward. But that it was wonderful to see that, and Annabelle Ewing was chairing that debate. Annabelle Ewing, who's the Deputy Presiding Officer, she's my local MSP, And last year she hosted an event in Parliament for Tourette Scotland to mark the charity's 30th anniversary. So
Oh,
there is a lot of support
yeah.
in Parliament, and it's just, filtering it down now, getting the message to the relevant committees and making sure that there's action. And, none of it will happen overnight. We will get there, we'll keep plugging away, and the more parents like Alan come forward as well and, take things on, that's just fantastic.
Hugely important that it's cross-party support, that they've taken politics out of it. Is what's right for the people that live in this country, and can we do something about it? Yes, so let's do something about it. Not have a tit for tat back and forward. We're not doing that because you said we should do that. They've just gone, this is going to be a benefit. We all agree. Let's do it. We need much more consensus like that.
Yeah. And Christine Graham was, she mentioned that John, who was the lead character in the film, was in her constituency, I think she said. And so she'd obviously met him before. So it was nice to have that kind of link brought out as well. We had sort of heard of the film, hadn't we, Lynn? We'd seen it as a trailer, but we'd gone, oh, that looks interesting. But it wasn't until I spoke to you, Carol, and you were telling us about the connection between the charity, the people who use the charity and kids with the actual film. And I'll just, in case anybody's wondering, what film are you talking about? It is this one, I Swear. And it's been top of the box office in Scotland. Has it been also in the UK, Carol, do you know?
And across the UK, and it's now, it's still kind of touring various film festivals. I heard that the other day that it won 2 awards at a French film festival.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I have a feeling that there will be people nominated for awards, across the making of this film, and the actors as well.
Yeah, definitely like to think so. And the thought goes through my mind there. I wonder what a French audience made of Scottish swearing.
I mean, I had you saying there's some people that still haven't heard of it. There was a documentary, maybe 1989 or something like that. John's Not Mad, about John Anderson, who is the main character. We call him a character, but he's a real life person. It's based on his story.
John Davidson one.
John Davidson, sorry, not John Anderson. Thank you, Carol. But Fiona and I had talked about going to see it, and then obviously Fiona had her interaction with you, so we kind of set a date and off we went. I loved the film. Cried and laughed in equal measure. And when we came out, Fiona said, shall I take a picture of us after being at the film? And I was like, absolutely not. My eyes are red raw from crying.
We went with Lynn's mum came along with us as well. So the 3 of us were in a row sort of at the back of the cinema. And all you could see after about the first 2 minutes was these little hands going up and down, tissues or sleeves or something. But it was a fabulous film. I mean, I don't think I've ever been to a film that I've had that much emotional response to, in my life. And it was a mixture of just being uproariously, inappropriately hilarious, just the things that came out was fabulous, but also just touching and heartbreaking as well. I mean, seeing what the John Davidson had to go through, especially as a young child, your heart just absolutely breaks for him. But so how did you get involved in the film, and what was it like? What was the process like?
So Kirk Jones had gotten in touch, who's the producer, had gotten in touch with John, and he'd gone to meet John. And once John had decided that, yes, he would go ahead with the making of this film, he liked, Kirk got the ethos and had an understanding, and his concern is always how Tourette's will be portrayed in the Tourette's community, not to be made fun of. He would say, laugh with us, not at us. So in his early conversations with Kirk, I believe that John had said that for the film to be as authentic as possible, when they were talking about the scenes, the family scenes, where they had the Tourette's weekend camp, which John held years and years ago, down at Langley, I believe, that it would be great to have the Tourette's community involved, and to give them the opportunity. So what happened then was the company got in touch with Tourette Scotland, the production company, and asked if we would reach out to our members, which we did. Now my foster son Leland, he's 13, because
Hi, Leland.
Rob Amarillo, who plays John as the adult in the film, he was doing his research, so he spent a lot of time with John to try and get his character, but he was also finding out about Tourette's syndrome, and he wanted to meet as many people as possible with Tourette's. So one of the things that Tourette Scotland does, I think it's every 3 years, we get invited to Dream Night at Blair Drummond Safari Park, and everybody loves it, and we get all the families come along, and it's just a fantastic night put on by Blair Drummond Safari Park. And Rob, by coincidence, that was happening when he was doing his research and he was in Scotland. So he came along to that night, and I wouldn't have been able to pick him out in a crowd at this point. It was before filming and before anything was happening. He was talking to the kids, and Leland, he just loves people. He'll talk to everybody. And Rob was speaking to some of the kids, and he said to Leland, "Hey pal, do you want to be in a film?"
What 13-year-old is going to turn that down?
Yeah. Yes. And he said to me, "What's this about?" I said, "Right, I'll find out about this." So after that, the people who were interested in being involved, Kirk and John, invited us along to, it was like an open day, where we could find out about what the film was going to be about, which we knew it was about John's life, the ethos, and how we would really, the families and the kids would be looked after who were going to take part in the filming. And part of that, which was really wonderful, and one of the things that made the film a great experience for everybody, was they employed an amazing woman called Rona Mackenzie Lane, who is an accessibility coordinator. And she made sure that everybody, because there were some wheelchair users, people with, different co-occurring conditions with their Tourette's. Some people have non-epileptic seizures and things like that. So she made sure everybody had everything that they needed for the film to be as accessible, the filming to be as accessible and comfortable as possible. And we had 2 full days filming in Milngavie, and it was just a great experience, And part of that great experience was all the kids, some of whom knew each other, some came from further afield, just making friends and seeing each other, and it helped build on the community and give it a bit more kind of oomph and strength as well. So it's paid dividends for the Tourette's community, and giving us a bit of a boost, giving the kids a bit of a boost. And
there was one scene in the film that really touched me, and it was where he said, John was the character was on the stage, and he said, "This weekend we're the majority," I think he said. And there was this one wee lad just put his face in his hands, and I thought that possibly was just genuine relief, that actually, and I just thought that was a really, really touching moment.
I have to say, those scenes that were filmed in the community centre, I mean, they're cut, they were a lot longer when we were doing the film, and obviously they cut them down, but it felt so authentic. Rob is such an amazing actor. A lot of us parents, when he was doing the parents' pep talk, but you don't see all of it in the film, a lot of us were in tears, sitting in the audience. It's because it just felt so real.
And is there a sort of continuing benefit to Tourette's from being in the film? Do you get sort of...
So I do believe they're getting a small percentage of what the film makes. I don't know what that is. So
that could be quite a lot then.
But just now, so the film and the book have being released for general sale. I think the film comes out on the 24th.
Right.
But if you go on the Tourette Scotland website and order from there, Tourette Scotland gets 6% of those sales. So that will be an ongoing benefit to the charity, which is much welcomed and appreciated.
I just had a sudden vision of homes all over Scotland sitting down on Christmas Day watching that film, and the language that's going to be surrounded. Oh, fabulous.
I have to say that, but the opening scene where it shows you him being presented to the Queen and what he shouts out there, the whole cinema, anyway, and it was I can't remember, like a Tuesday afternoon or something. We went maybe a Wednesday afternoon, so it was quite quiet in the cinema, but there was a kind of uproar of laughter in the cinema at that. So, and if people don't know what it is, you have to see the film to find out.
Exactly.
Even the awareness raising the film has done must be beneficial as well. You know, you say, you talk about the young people and how they're treated and how they're, you know, Fiona mentioned potentially being put down to bad behaviour. But as a teacher myself, you get taught that every behaviour is a form of communication. But to see how kind of harshly that John was treated, both in school, but not only at school, but at home by his family. Because and not all his family, but his parents didn't have any idea what was going on, didn't realise that this was a condition. Everything was involuntary. He couldn't control it. He wasn't choosing to do what he did with his tics and his swearing. So
there was no help for parents then, though. Do you know that the condition was so misunderstood, and it wasn't until John was in hospital and by chance there was a consultant in the cafe, I think he was a neurologist, and he'd noticed John's symptoms, and that was basically when he got his diagnosis. For parents, and I mean, way back then, this, as you know, still in the days of kind of corporal punishment and all that kind of thing, and parent judgment is still a problem. You know, and in those days, in a small community where you're kind of highlighted, that would have been very difficult for them.
And in the film, I'm sure presume in real life as well, that it caused the family to split up. And you can imagine, you know, in those days, why, if parents are taking up a level of blame on themselves for the situation without knowing what it is. I mean, awareness.
So hopefully things have moved on. Since then, and people can get support, because I wish you could go back in time and just, you know, help them and do that. That's so unfair what he had to go through. But from his adversity, do you know, there's come so much strength, and John's helped so much, helped the Tourette's community so much by, you know, really putting himself out there and teaching people, learning about the condition himself, and then passing that knowledge on.
When he was sharing it with the police as well, I mean, that's Lynne, you were, as a former experience there, would that have been something you knew anything about?
I didn't come across that when I was in the police, so maybe slightly before me, maybe slightly after me, I don't know. But as I say, I was aware of Tourette's, and I think because of the documentary that was done before. But that was just something I wanted to bring up there. You know, there's been coverage recently of I think Richard Tice from Reform saying that children who are neurodivergent wearing headphones, wearing like ear defenders in school is insane, I think was the word he used. And you're like, this is just a small adjustment to make the environment better for that young person, and clearly got no experience of working with young people or in education, or
any compassion for anybody else. What a piece of work.
That's what it is. You make these small adjustments, it makes it better for the individual, it makes it better for everybody else around them. It makes it better for the staff. So you're thinking, so what if they've got ear defenders on? If that's what works for them, that's what works for them.
But if they're not a rich, elderly, right-wing white man, then your opinion doesn't count. You know, that's Tice's approach.
But then when you look at as Carol has said, sort of in the population, it's 1% of the population. So do these families not have anybody with any kind of additional needs, and how do they treat, you know, are they not treated with any empathy whatsoever? It's just, you know, you think it's like, why can people not just be kind? Because that's all it takes, is being kind and understanding, and you know,
kindness. There was a bit in it when we were watching the film. There was a point, I can't remember what the scene was, but I was thinking, oh, you felt this tension because you knew something was going to happen in the scene, in the film. There was going to be something said, some explosion, and I could feel myself sort of tensing up with the anticipation of it. And I thought, if that's how I feel just sitting watching something in a cinema, what must it be like to actually be that person who can feel this welling up and knowing it's going to come out? I mean, you said something, Lynne, the other day when we were chatting, which was, how come there has to be a film made about something before something's done? And we were talking about the Horizon post office thing, of which, of course, was Watchlight. And this, I think, is you know, probably bigger even than that in its success. Maybe I'm not sure if the other one was top of the box office or not. I don't know. You know, is that the only way that we can actually get things out, do you think?
But it has done a huge amount for awareness raising, like the Horizon program, the Mr. Bates. And it's just like, you know, there's almost kind of like, there was rumblings underneath the surface that people knew about this, but it wasn't really general awareness. But again, it's, you know, who controls the media and whether they can get these things out there. Anything that then puts people in a bad light, they don't necessarily want out, do they? Particularly the Horizon scandal, when it turned out that they knew that the operating system that was being used by the postmasters and postmistresses was severely flawed, you know, so much so that it ended up, you know, multiple people took their own lives because of the stress that was put on them as a result of that.
The positive thing about the kind of profile of the film, that I would expect we'll start to hear more and more people say, oh, actually, either I've got that myself, or I know somebody who has, or I've got some experience in. Was it Lewis Capaldi? Yes, you know, that's somebody at the top of his game. You know, even in his sort of circumstance, I think this is going to make his life better. You know, so what's it going to do for everybody else? I mean, has it had a positive effect on Leyland then, who we met in? He came to the art show. What a little character, lovely guy.
Leyland is not able to see the film because it's a 15.
Oh, the irony!
He's seen the trailers and he's seen bits with him in it. So and that's what he wants to see, is just himself on the screen. So, do you know, it's a bit, the film, actually, I can understand why it's a 15, because it's so emotive as well.
Yes.
And, you know, I won't say too much more about that for people who haven't seen it, but the language and whatever, that would not, you know, be a problem. But the emotions and, you know, that's John's life story, I would maybe want to protect him from, because of where he's at, you know, in his life just now as a young teenager. Keep his innocence a wee bit longer about things like that, you know.
Not deal with things until you have to deal with them.
We talk about feelings and mental health and, you know, all that kind of thing, but there's some of the scenes in the film are difficult, and I think
quite harrowing
for sensitive, you know, young boys, that's, you know, that could be tricky. To kind of navigate, but he is really excited about it. He's you know, the hype round about it, and I suppose what it's done for him is given him a bit of confidence. So
And has he become a bit of a local hero in his school? Is he got some street cred from it?
He told me a story. He says one day, so they have an activity on a Wednesday, and they come back and he says, and the teachers, they weren't where they were meant to be. And he went in, I don't know if it was a classroom or where they were. They went in, and apparently they'd all been to see the film. He says, no, had their cameras out, and they're saying that they were the paparazzi saying they were taking his pictures.
Oh, fabulous.
So that was lovely to hear. Yeah, and people have actually said to me, oh, I saw you in the film, and saw Graham in the film, and I saw Leyland, and it's just like, we're only on it for like 3 seconds, but it's a big screen.
Oh, there's Carol.
It is true, though. It's, the swearing just sort of washes over you, especially when it's, to the degree it's in the film. You very quickly almost don't notice it. It's the human situation and the emotion and the empathy with what they must be going through. That's where that is the really hard bit. So I think you're quite right about that.
I think what I'm hoping that the film will do kind of in the longer term is to raise awareness, but to pique people's curiosity. And like other conditions like autism, Tourette's, each person with Tourette's is an individual, and their presentation will be different. So for instance, John's tics come out kind of explosively. Leyland's tics come out as in conversation. So he says things that he doesn't know it's coming, and it comes out. And that's where it can look like bad behaviour.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to tease out, and it's difficult for other people to tease out. So we just kind of say to people, just pass that by. Just, keep on with the conversation. Yeah. And I think probably when you met him, Fiona, there was probably a bit of that going on. And you just kind of think,
I can't say I actually noticed it, because he's a really engaging weed.
I mean, he's lively, and he kind of covers things up by kind of moving around or, joking and kind of that, and that's how he copes, and it's quite a nice way to cope.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Well, I certainly, I mean, other than maybe the odd word here and there, but teenagers, my son does that as well. So,
if people are curious and I'm kind of just accept anybody's mannerisms or tics or whatever, and pass them by and see the person underneath and the feelings kind of behind all that. Then that's
and I think as well in lots of conditions, we talk about masking in school. Children are masking. And I think that can be quite dangerous, because then you're not actually getting to the root of it to be able to put the correct support in place. So if they're feeling more comfortable and confident about it, then maybe have to mask less, and then you can ensure that you're getting the right strategies that will work for that young person.
So part of Leyland's story is that he could mask in school when he was younger. He was in mainstream to start with, and then the problems really started when he was not able to mask, and he was all over the place. And bearing in mind that this is when we had no idea, what was going on with him. School had no idea what was going on with him, so the tics were seen as behaviour. He had one where everybody who was lower down than him in the playground, he was tapping them on the head quite hard. And you can imagine how problematic that is in a playground with a couple of hundred kids. And he had no idea, why he was doing it or how he was doing it. So it was affecting his mental health as well, because he said, I can't stop it. Stop it. And there was, swearing and other kind of behavioural things coming out, which nobody knew how to help him with at the time until we got in touch with Tourette Scotland. And actually, he was out of school for a wee while, and now he's in a specialist provision, which is fantastic. They do lots of outdoor stuff. Every child is an individual, and treated as such, and he's doing really, really well in school now. But mainstream wasn't for him. Lynne, if you've been a teacher before, you'll know as well that some children then can't attend school, and there'll be children that are out of the school system because it just isn't a fit for them.
Yeah.
And that's where there are people fall through the gaps, and there's kind of help needed there as well. Not everybody's as fortunate.
So the masking or the suppressing of things, that must be really difficult to do. I had one of my children at one point had vocal and physical tics, and I was horrified when I picked him up from school because they all came out then, and it wasn't until somebody said, that's because they feel safe with you. They can let them out. But it must be hard. It's a bit like, if you think about sneezing, trying to hold a sneeze in, you know, it's not easy to do, and it's so much better once it's out. So being in an environment where they no longer have to suppress their tics, I imagine that will drop anxiety levels as well. So maybe there's, I don't know, I'm sort of surmising here, that there might actually be less, or they can just get them out and then just get on with it. There's less anxiety around it, perhaps.
Yeah, so tics can build up over the day, and children, like you say, suppress or mask in school or both. And then when they get home, that's when it all tends to come out, or even before they get home, you know, they're having a meltdown on the way to the car because they just cannot cope any longer. And there's whatever the straw that's broken the camel's back, you know, has happened. And then it just all comes out with the parents or the carers. And that's really difficult. And it's one of the things that's difficult for the parents and carers is to try and explain that to school, because they're looking at this. The teachers and the staff are looking at this child who seems to be managing absolutely fine, but they're not saying that they're not managing fine because, you know, that it's all coming out later on, and they think then it's a home problem, not a school problem, where it's not. It's something that needs to be shared. So there's a bit of a debate and different opinions on having children diagnosed for things. And what I've heard said, what's been said to me by a consultant at one point was, why do you want to label your child? And I was just horrified. I thought, this child, and I'm not speaking about Lynne here, I'm speaking about somebody else, has got so many, you know, barriers to overcome and challenges to face every day, and they don't understand why, and they need a diagnosis to be able to understand themselves. A diagnosis is a way of understanding. You know, it's an explanation of why you're the way you are and why you need the help that you need. So,
and a clue as to what might work as well in terms of health.
That was just one. I have to say, most of our interactions with consultants and different medical people over the years have been good, but it's always the things that shock you that are magnified, I suppose. But they're the things that can also have a more negative effect on the young person going forward. So I think it's really, really important for conditions to be diagnosed. It's important for somebody, if they've got Tourette's and it's affecting their life, to have a diagnosis, or ADHD or autism. They may have all three, but they need all of those diagnoses to cope with the different factors that each thing will bring. And also there might be medication for the ADHD, there might be medication for the Tourette, so that is needed. It's something that's needed.
That was something again in the film at the end where he tries out this. It was a sort of thing that goes on the wrist, and did it regulate brain waves or something? It had some kind of neurological effect. I didn't follow that.
It's called the Neopulse. And I think John took part in some of the research for that, and that's going to be available next year. And it sits on the wrist, and I think it's the median nerve, if I've got the name right, and it connects to the brain, and it just quiets that bit of the brain down and provides a bit of a filter. And it will work for some people, won't work for everyone, and it needs to be calibrated to each person. So it's they're based in Nottingham, so for people in Scotland there's a bit of a barrier to that, and also there's a cost to it. It's £500 to buy the device, and then it's £20 a month. I think that's to cover, keeping it calibrated and that sort of thing. But it might be a tool that will help some people. So it's always good to have as many tools as possible in your toolkit.
And you say there's a cost to it, but £500 over a lifetime, and the £20 a month, when you look at what people are paying for their mobile phones, actually, if it's something that's then going to help them. When I watched the film, I'm watching it, I thought it made me think about the TENS machine that you sometimes get to deal with pain, where that obviously just kind of stimulates the nerves and the transmission of the sensation of pain. Because I always think pain is not necessarily felt with your fingers, it's felt in the brain. It's the signals being sent back to the brain that say that's where it is. So it's interrupting that flow of whatever it is that's causing the actions to happen. So, but that was a lovely part of the film where he said, "I've never felt this calm before," or kind of almost like at peace with it. So
and he goes into the library. That was a really emotional scene when he goes in there as well.
Giving the film away.
I know. Well, but it's worth, even with the spoilers that we have flicked out in this. It's definitely worth seeing. I just thought it was an extraordinary film, and congratulations, really, for being involved in it, and how lovely that we've managed to, to make that connection just again through the art side of things, which is great. I see some pictures behind you. Is that your work on the wall?
Some of them are mine, and some of them are just other favourite bits and pieces. Do
you find that a very a helpful therapeutic thing?
Just so I do lots of different types of painting, and depending on what I need at the time. Whether it's to get out something that's political. One of my paintings behind me is about the situation in Palestine, and then I like doing, watercolours of Scottish scenery as well, of somebody's life story.
What really would be therapeutic would be to do some Jackson Pollock style painting.
Actually, I've got two friends who do workshops, and they did one in Methil called Women Who Read. And Jackson Pollock, eat your heart out.
I've heard of some workshops where people go along and they smash things, and I'm kind of like, okay, I can see why that would help you vent your spleen, but then the other side of me goes, what a waste. That was a perfectly good play.
What have you found has helped you as a parent, a carer, parent? What's helpful for people?
So what's helped, not just me, myself and Graham, my husband, is being involved with the Tourette's community, meeting other parents. So Tourette's Scotland run, and it follows on from what John did, his Tourette's weekends all those years ago. So we have an annual family camp at Fordell Firth, which is the Scouts camp. So we get about 60 families who come along to that. That's one of the most kind of special things we do, and people come, and I remember our first experience going there and walking in, and Leland had his diagnosis by this time. We'd had support from Sarah and Kyla at Tourette Scotland, and Elaine, who volunteered at that time. So most of that at that point was done online, because it was kind of COVID times, just coming out of COVID times. And at that point, Leland was quite a bit younger, and when we were in strange situations, he was kind of stayed glued to us. And I said to Sarah before, I don't know, I don't know if he'll do it. I don't know if he'll join in, and we'll just see how it is. And we got there, and he recognised them from being online, and they had helped him, understand his tics and whatever. There was other kids there, and he jumped in with both feet, took part in everything. We met other parents who were not judging any of the language, any of the, what was going on with the kids. And it was like a massive sigh of relief for everybody. And that's what we see year on year, we had a parent come this year, and it was really touching, and she said it was the first time that she had felt that her wee boy could just be himself, let it all out, and that she wasn't misunderstood or judged as a parent. And it's just so important, that community, and just being with other people who get it, without any questioning, and just, acceptance and support, when things are a bit tricky, because with kids things can be tricky, no matter where. And that is, I think, as part of John's legacy, that's one of the things that the charity can keep doing. And from that, then people go to the local support groups, or they'll come and go to the mums and dads and carers group online, or they'll access help, and friendships are formed. And as you say, it's about community and connections, and keeping all that going. So and that's all any of us really want, isn't it? To be accepted for who we are and what we are, and hopefully then the result of this is just going to be, the world's going to be that little bit more kinder and accepting and understanding of a whole range of people in there. So from that perspective, let's hope it. And I think the way the world's going, and the media, and what comes across the right wing stuff, and the lack of tolerance, and all the stuff about migrants and refugees, and people are people, and the more tolerance, acceptance, understanding we can have each other, the better, no matter who we are. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, well said. Yes, it's a little glow of something nice in a world that can be quite cruel and nasty.
It's been really enjoyable talking to you, Carol.
It's been fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
And just so nice to hear that actually, you've got that place where you can go, where you're not isolated as a family, and you've got other people you can go and you can share experiences, and as you say, let people be how they are without being judged, where they're in a safe space. So, and I think it's good as well, the likes of Fordell Firs, my children were all scouts, so being out in nature as well, and getting to run about is very enjoyable too, and good for you. So
it's great for the confidence, the challenges that they do there. They're braver than me.
Did you do the milk crate challenge?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the favourites. Yeah.
So Fiona, what they do for that is they pile up milk crates, and they have to keep climbing up, adding them and climbing and climbing. They do have a harness on, but I think, and it's actually, you'll not be surprised to hear, but it was my daughter, who's the more outdoorsy of all the children. She got up to about 13 milk crates.
Wow.
So, before, you can imagine, they're big chunky crates, but by the time you're up at 13, it's a bit wobbly. So,
fab. Anything. That's the kind of thing kids love, though, isn't it? Anything with a bit of danger attached.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Carol. It's been lovely to have a chat, and it's been really, really nice to have met you. Do keep in touch.
Will do. And thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been great to come along and put it all together and chat.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to make sure you're following us and subscribe to us, then you get notified every time we put something new out, so you don't miss anything. That would be great. Also, you can click the little bell if you're watching on YouTube.
And sign up for our mailing list. You can do that from the website, and we always send one out at the beginning of each month to tell you what's happening. Last but not least, you can buy us a coffee on coffee.com.